I've been kicked out of my near every bar around. I've been locked up for driving 120 through town. I've been shot at and cut with a knife, messing around with another man's wife. But other than that,
and I'm glad you guys can join us this morning because we're just having a conversation. It could carry
as we do
over
every morning.
It could just carry right over into this hour,
and it just might.
I want to get you started right
Welcome
off
to
the
Wade
bat.
and Carter Show. Ash Brent. Good morning, everybody. Wade and Carter weather brought to you by the great folks at AT Deerland Hayfeed and Ranch Services.
For our international listeners, welcome. For our great, great family, La Familia on Magic 95.9. Thank you for tuning in. The Wade and Carter weather
Not to
brought
be confused
to you.
with La Raza.
No, we'll talk about La Raza here in a minute. Victoria's weather, 69 degrees under mostly clear skies, heading to a high of 80.
It'll be a nice day.
It's going to be like yesterday, but the sun should come out this afternoon. It should be a beautiful, beautiful afternoon.
Yep, home opener for UHV softball. So if you're kicking around at 2 o'clock this afternoon and got nothing better to do, go to the U Sports Complex.
So, I mean, just spitballing here because you brought something to my attention about some plans for go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, Wendy Hughes Garcia, Ricky King, Scott Tomko. Good morning. They're on the podium. We'll get to everybody else because there's lots to talk about this morning.
Yeah, we want to talk about this lipstick on the pig that is our community center and the potential. If you could put that on the big screen, that's awesome. Right here. Very, very, for years here, we've talked about the idea that Victoria needs, and it needs a roping arena. It needs a facility that can house some people. It needs these things, and it does. And it appears that the city has come up with the possibility of the Victoria Community Center. We're going to put some renovation money into it. How much was it?
$35 million.
$35 million. And I looked at it, and for a long time, I've been a proponent of doing something out on the north side of town, tons of space, tons of, it's where the people are. It's certainly where the people who have the money to support it are. And why not build it up there? The fallacy that, well, if we build a new H-E-B superstore down under the hill, it's going to renovate that neighborhood. That's a lie.
Imagine if the city would have bought the old Pioneer.
Wow.
And put this all there.
And they could have bought it for less than the cost of the concrete and gotten the buildings for free. How does Region 3 beat the city and county, who I believe should work in a collaborative effort? And that goes into so many things we talk about, the city and county working collaboratively.
So $35 million renovation will
Seems
include
cheap to me. It does.
Covered event arena, an exposition hall, fairground improvements, and other site improvements. Voters will have to decide to help finance this. $11 million of it going to come from a venue tax. That will be 2% added to hotel taxes, to the hotel occupancy tax, and a 5% tax on car rentals, which they call a short term.
Short term. That'll never leave forever. By the way, what do we have here? One, Enterprise is the only car rental, right? Yeah. Enterprise is like, woohoo. But if you go back up, well, it says you don't have to go up. It says up to a 3,000 fixed seat covered arena. Picture the place at Breckenridge. 3,000 fixed seat covered event arena. BJ Nelson's calling. Let's just see what. Let's see. BJ, are you there? You there?
I just have a quick question.
All right.
So if this was passed, if this is a city situation to refurbish the community center.
Yes, ma'am.
However, if it's going to be used for a lot of rural activities like stock show and different things, most of those people live in the county, so will they not even be allowed to vote in this?
It's apparently a city project, which BJ brings us around to the idea of
city folks are county folks,
right? But the county folks who would probably all vote yay. But then again, the county folks would then be voting yay to impose taxes on people that live in the city. But BJ,
no, they're not. They're voting to impose taxes on people that come to our city.
Yeah. Let them pay.
This
Yeah, but if we don't
11
vote-
million.
If you live in the county, you don't get to vote on things that the city votes on. So what I'm saying is all those rural people that would like for it to be renovated for a stock show or more roping activities that you were referring to,
Sure.
They won't even get to vote. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's a city referendum. How about though if I run this by you and I'm asking you with your school board hat on?
Okay,
Why
hang on, let me go
is
find
it-
it. Okay.
Why is it that we can't find a way in our community to have a collaborative effort more often? Dawn and I, give you a great example. Dawn and I last week, sometime, we're driving down Sam Houston, and we got to the corner of Sam Houston and Ben Wilson. And we're looking to our left at the old Victoria High campus, and then we're looking to our right, and you can see the new boulevard that is UHV. It's just right there. Now, anybody with any sense knows we're in the days where we're about to have a change. It's going to be A&M Victoria. I can't wait to see it. Nothing against University of Houston, but just a better brand. A&M Victoria is coming. That's the way it is. Let's figure it out together. Why
Really?
can't
You think so?
Oh, I just book it. I've never lied to you. Why can't
They
we?
talked about that 20 years ago and it never happened.
Now the big dad's talking about it. You can bet it's going to happen. So listen to me. If you look at
Comments are those strictly expressed? Or those
I've never
strictly
gotten.
of Brent
I've
Carter?
never gotten any input from Ash, nor do I expect that Ash has any input. Honestly, I
That's
don't.
way above my pay grade.
I'm telling, but it's not above mine. And let me tell you that I can look to my right and see the future A&M Victoria campus. I can look to my left and see the beautiful Performing Arts Center, the beautiful swimming facility, and then the rest of it is a dump. It's a dump. And what needs to happen is somebody needs to get with the city, the county, VISD, and there needs to be a collaborative effort of those three mega gazillion dollar a year entities that say, you know what, the community needs an A&M Victoria ballpark on this property over there where that practice is. We need to build some dugouts, put in a concession stand, and the community needs a new football stadium there that's kind of a show place. It doesn't have to be, I'm not talking about $60 million. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm just talking about tear down the dinosaur and put up some steel and some aluminum. I went to a beautiful, beautiful stadium in Bay City. I mean, gorgeous. Easy deal, man. It ain't that hard to do. And turn the collaborative work together into something. Because here's what happens. I'm just making up, so before you do that, I'm just making up something. Let's say that VISD decided that because every now and then they need an ambulance. So they go buy an ambulance. And the city says, well, you know, every now and then we need an ambulance. So they go buy an ambulance. And so does the county. And then they all finally realize we only use our ambulance between us once a month. Why didn't they just all get together and buy one ambulance? And it just doesn't work that way in this community. And look, I mean, I love Ben Zeller. Ben Zeller is family to me. Ben Zeller does not champion this idea. I mean, he's not telling me, boy, if I could just work with the city on this. We never have that conversation, ever. And I know that Jesus Garza does not reach out to the county very often. I just know he doesn't. I don't understand why, as taxpayers, we don't have someone, maybe me, to be the czar of common sense. Why don't we have a Doge in Victoria? Why don't we have a Doge in Victoria that says, hey, you know, I mean, the high schools can have Riverside Stadium. There you go. A&M Victoria has a new Bluebell Junior ballpark.
Yeah.
Why not? You know what? You might even get a guy or group of folks. I don't know. T. Michael O'Connor was on the board of regents at A&M. You don't think he might help raise some money for that? That's just where my heart is. Why can't we have nice things? I don't get it.
I don't think we're an anomaly there. Too many cities, counties, and other entities want to build their own fiefdoms rather than one kingdom.
Amen. I do wonder, I'm all for, Ash and I were kind of bantering back and forth that 35 million is a lot of money. But when you consider just the cost of things, that the city's spending 50 million plus on the new police station to renovate what we've got. Yeah. It's going up. They haven't put a chair in it yet, but to be able to add a 3,000 seat venue and renovate everything for 35 million, a large chunk of which will come from use taxes.
I'm going to guess by the time they start looking into 45. That existing covered arena area, they're better off tearing that down and starting from scratch.
Well, so you asked the question, Brent,
yes,
which precipitates an answer, and a couple things come to mind. One, if you were the Grand Poopah mayor, you would have more of a seat to edict from. But
yeah, I don't want to be mayor. I got more power right here. I got a lot more stroke right here.
You have more influence, but the final decisions are made by the people who vote.
True story.
And that is a fact. Second, yeah, it does come to mind the Pioneer Place. And when that all kind of went down, and I was still on Stock Show Committee, I suggested that they go talk to Region 3 and see if they could work something out. And in the meantime, I got off Stock Show Committee, so I don't know whatever went down with that.
Yes,
that's not in my peer view. I don't know why we don't get together, but I have noticed in the last 20 to 25 years that all the stadiums around the country all have names on them, like SoFi
Frost Stadium.
Well, no, I'm talking about like in other cities. And I always thought, why do they have to be sponsored by FedEx or, I mean,
you've got to have private money to make it work.
Well, because they give $1 million plus a year for those things, even though it's a drop in the bucket in the actual construction cost.
That's what we need to look at.
Naming rights.
Having more naming rights. And on the West, Victoria West, it has Under Armour on our building. Victoria Under Armour.
Why not have
I think,
the Pellet Palace? The Pellet Palace, and get Formosa to do it. I mean, Formosa nets, they net $1 billion a year right down the road from us. Why not?
And that's great for the tax base.
Amen. But why not get them to a non-taxable donation of up to $200
we'll keep up the conversation.
Hey, we love you.
Appreciate you. Thanks,
Thank
BJ.
you for being accessible. That's BJ Nelson, school board member and great citizen, highly involved citizen, president of the Chamber of Commerce.
A lot of time those naming rights come with a lot of visibility, like Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of visibility here.
Really, that's the issue with some of that stuff. Randy Langston says, why didn't they just use some more COVID money? You know, Randy, what's interesting? Remember when the county and the city got their combined 20 million or whatever it was? Brent and I suggested this.
Yeah.
We suggested the city and the county take that money
together,
build something like this somewhere. The city and the county have enough land. Give this city and county something to show for that money. What do we have to show for the 20 plus million we got in COVID money? Absolutely nothing in this town.
I will tell you that the county did pretty good with their money. I've reviewed some of those funds, and the county did not. For example, they did a $3 million railroad spur out at the port. They did some infrastructure and improvement projects that really, really benefit the community in the long run. But there wasn't a splash moment.
Did we pay for that when Caterpillar came in, or did Caterpillar pay for that?
No, I'm talking about out at
I know
port.
What you're talking about.
There wasn't a splash moment. I always thought that there should be something for example, I don't know how we paid for the new pavilion downtown, but you need something iconic like that you could say that's the community pulling together with the COVID money.
And this is where this is a great segue into one of our other topics this morning, because we'll talk about this a lot, I'm sure. But the waste in the federal government. Try to tell me how a railroad spur had anything to do with COVID.
True story, nothing. You sounded like Barbara Walters right there. Whoa. I'm Baba Wawa. Tell me how a werewolf spur.
Elon Musk coming out and saying that $1 trillion
It's
year
only one.
in federal fraudulent spending. He also disclosed that our Treasury Department never stops a payment. He says they've been instructed to basically just stamp every payment that comes through there. They don't question it. They don't look at it. Doesn't matter if it's going to a terrorist group or a country that we're no longer friends with.
Do you think Wade and Carter should call for a mandatory collaborative, like a coordinated effort? I'm not joking here at all. Where we get, maybe you start out with the school superintendent, the city manager, and the county judge, and the police chief and the sheriff. And maybe you have a deal of what can we do together? Where do we have redundancies? Let's bring these things to the table. And maybe in the second meeting, you bring in the entourage of the commissioner's court, the city council. You have the mayor there already. I'm sorry, mayor. You bring in that group, then the group that affects change, not just the visionaries. And what if we actually sat down together? Because I'm telling you, this never happens in our community. Never.
I don't think it happens in many communities.
And it should. In a community this size where there's a limited bucket of money, why don't we all get together and go, hey, you know what? Wait a minute. If you keep the fire trucks at the airport, then we can do our, what do they call that thing they do? Reciprocal agreement. So these things make sense, but they were brought about out of necessity. What if we were proactive and actually thought about it? What if we challenged each other to actually make
some of it's
something
prohibited
happen?
by state law.
Well, what if we just bucked that a little bit and made something happen? Folks, these are the people right here. These are the people in town, the community leaders that can make things happen. Went Services, Went Electrical, Went for all your generator needs. Reach out to Went for your next Generac generator, American made. If you do it right, you can even get an extended warranty included in the deal. Wink, wink.
Tammy Keeling says they tried to get the city or the county to partner with the Fine Arts Center and the Natatorium, and they didn't want to do it.
Yeah, well, they didn't want to do it. That right there, that exact statement, they didn't want to do it. Well, nuts. Let's all get together and make them do it. It's our money. It is our money. RK Development Group. Spend your money well. Let a 35-year veteran and a United States Marine Corps veteran come out and build your next building. Barn dominium, whatever you need done. Daniel Rollins and his group.
He can probably build some of that stuff.
They will take care of you. Check him out on Facebook. Give you $1 if you can kill that ant. Brand us. Leave the broads out of it. Brand us. Our buddy Cody Bauman can help you.
I just got $1.
You got $1. You made $1 off that. Let Cody help you with a website, enhance your website. He could redo the website for the Victoria Community Center, no doubt about it, make it look better. He could put lipstick on that pig.
Those pictures look nice, though.
It does
Nice
look
renderings.
nice. And you know what? That's the great thing about it. And remember this with RK. That's the great thing about a big metal building. You build it right, you can always renovate it, put new skin on it. As long as the red iron and purlins are good, let's rock and roll. You can do it. Atzenhofer and Atzenhofer.com. I talked to Tommy Taylor yesterday. He's doing great things. Atzenhofer has your next Chevy pickup and Mazdas, right? Get by it. No,
Mitsubishis.
But they've got all kinds of gently pre-owned vehicles.
There's still Mazdas on the lot.
Get by and see them today. We talked to BJ Nelson, White Trash Services, White Trash Site Services. Just call BJ.
1826. Talk to a person. You don't get a phone tree. You actually get somebody to
They're
talk to. They'll
super
answer all your
nice.
questions. They do a great job.
Super helpful people. Palace Bingo, where friends meet friends, next
Thursday.
the 13th.
Yep.
Next Thursday, the 13th. Part of the long lovers weekend. Bring your loved one to Palace Bingo. The next day is Valentine's Day. And then on that Sunday, take them for a chicken dinner, winter chicken dinner, to help Clara Ramos defray some medical expenses. You can do that. We'll talk about it's on Tristan. We'll get you the address next week. I don't have it in front of me.
No.
I'm just being honest. Chestic Furniture, Chestic and Love, make your house a home. See why you just always do better at Chestic. Right here, Chestic Furniture. We're using it. We adore it.
So the $1 trillion that that is fraudulently spent every year.
So that's 1,000 billions.
That's equal to about, that's actually a little more than what the top 1% pay in all federal income tax every year. Wow. And the left is mad
because they don't pay more.
But the left is mad at Elon Musk because this is the kind of things he's finding out. He's also said if you take the wasteful spending on stupid programs and things that we don't need to be spending money on, there's another $2 trillion. And
I was listening.
Or there's another trillion. That's $2 trillion in total, just on the fraud and the waste, before we've even started examining to see if any of the other spending that we're doing of the, $7.5 trillion this year is actually doing any good. But already we've whittled that, Elon Musk has whittled that down to $5.5 trillion because of the fraud and the waste. But and the left is mad. In all
honesty, the left, the Democrats in Congress, in all fairness, and just objectivity, forever they've spent money like there's an endless bucket. They have. They spend money like there's an endless bucket. The Republicans spend money but they're guilty about it. You know what I mean? They spend money also, but they feel guilty. Like, well, we know there's not an endless bucket, but we've got to fund this. You've got to fund this. Wow. The Fair Treatment for All Act. You've got to put $1 billion.
How can you be against fair treatment for all?
You can't be against that. The FTA. You've got to be for that. But at the end of the day, people of both parties should be celebrating that a bunch of lifelong politicians, most of whom were attorneys, who, be honest, they've got no real grasp of reality. Be honest. Most
of them have never even been practicing attorneys.
We all live in a Doge world. BJ Nelson lives in a Doge world. They're always seeking efficiency, maximizing their top-end dollars. They don't just go, well, so-and-so was really busy today. Let's hire 41,000 people at $100,000 a pop, and we'll figure out how to go get that money from the American taxpayer. There's a great example of lunacy in government. We're just going to hire
75,000 IRS agents to go find money that
they will pay for themselves. That's beautiful. That's just brilliant. What you do, they said the way Elon Musk runs his businesses, Ash, is he cuts and cuts and cuts until he literally has to add back. When it gets to the point that the job isn't going to get done, he adds back.
The private sector does this all the time.
Every day.
When they lay people off, they quickly realize, oops, we cut too far. You know what? They call somebody they just laid off and said, hey, you want to come back?
Yeah.
Or they're trying to trim their bottom line or expenses and expand their bottom line. So they lay people off with benefits, but then they hire them back as contract workers and pay them more salary, but they're no longer getting the benefits and the whatever 35% that typically goes into the benefits packages, right?
I have a friend out of town who was he runs a hospital. He's the CEO of a hospital system, in fact. And he expressed a real concern. This is the other side of the pancake. He told me once, he goes, I'm really troubled. I'm upset. And I said, why? I said, it seems like the place is running really smoothly. He goes, it is, and that's the problem. He goes, from a management standpoint, if I don't have doctors complaining, if I don't have nurses in my office complaining about their hours and their pay and how much work they're doing, if I don't have people complaining, I got too many people and we're paying them too much.
I'll disagree with that. That means you've got happy employees and they don't want to complain.
And we know that that's just not the way the world works. I mean, I get it, but that's very Pollyanna. But from his perspective, he's like, I just want them right on the edge where if everything's running just right, everybody's okay. If we have one extra body show up at the ER, it's chaotic. He goes, I'm not saying we want to sacrifice patient care. I'm saying that the fact that everybody's like, shh, don't mess this up. Everything's going pretty good. He goes, that means I've got too many people. I've given in too much. Now, that's just the management perspective, and it may not be fair, but this is also a guy that I happened to overhear one time fire a guy, and he told him, I'm doing you a favor because clearly this is just not the line of work for you, and we're going to help you find what does work for you. He's had a very Jimmy Johnson streak to him that I found amusing. I sentenced men younger than you to the gas chamber. I didn't want to do it. I felt I owed it to them.
Absolutely.
That's that logic.
Ricky King says, amazing to watch the Democrats squirm because their piggy bank in U.S. aid is going
Amen.
away.
Amen.
And it ain't just the Democrats. There's a lot of rhino Republicans that are squirming just as bad.
We are all politicos, and we all follow. None of you people knew what U.S. aid was before 3 weeks ago. Tell me I'm wrong.
Probably not wrong.
You've never heard of U.S. aid ever. Come on, people. Never heard of it.
It's been around since 61.
Yeah, Kennedy did it with an executive order.
Then it was formalized, 64 under LBJ?
Yeah, and then it was
through Congress.
Brought up again by Clinton, affirmed it. And then in 98, it became part of a big act, which made it an agency.
Of course, Clinton did because
it helped Arkansas.
Well, and it probably helped the Clinton Foundation or those tied to the Clinton Foundation.
Amen.
How much of that money went to? How much U.S. aid money went to Haiti back in the 90s and 2000s that the Clinton Foundation was?
No doubt about it. Managing for them because they were too dumb to manage their own money. Right.
Yeah.
That's the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah, that was
helping
exactly
those too dumb to help themselves. The Clintons.
Yeah. Listen to this. There's a new study out there. We'll switch gears. Talk students here. A new study shows that students, on average, who spend about 6.5 hours a day in school, spend 1.5 of those hours on their smartphones. About a quarter of their learning time is now screen time.
Crazy. And
you wonder why we're getting dumber.
I wonder, I'll tell you that I've seen folks that homeschool. I'm certainly not an anti-homeschool person. Okay. I think there are, a BECA. There's certain curriculum out there that is really good. And if you have the ability to meet the standards, I mean, the pros and cons, but homeschooling is fine for some people. But I don't know anybody ever who homeschooled for 6.5 hours. They homeschool in the morning or they homeschool in the afternoon, because if you sit down and get the work done, you don't have to be in school 15 hours a day.
This study's in the Journal of the American Medical Association Pediatrics, so JAMA Pediatrics. Listen to this. They spend 6.5 hours a day in school. They spend 1.5 hours on the phone in school, yet their whole day phone usage averages 5.6 hours.
That's a lot.
So this is a lot, but
if they're awake 12 hours, if they're awake 15 hours, over a third of it is spent looking at their phone screen.
And then you wonder why we're obese, why our kids have ADHD and all these other afflictions, why they don't socialize properly, they don't play.
The top 5 most used apps: messaging, Instagram, video streaming, audio, and email. Interesting study, 117 kids ages 13 to 18, and they got them to volunteer to download an app to measure their usage. And just today, just do what you do. You know, we're not judging you. We just want to track you.
And the researcher said because these numbers likely are only followed and focused on their smartphone use, probably underestimated overall screen use because, of course, so a lot of these kids are probably gaming. They might be on an iPad. Yeah. Interesting.
Would we have ever graduated if we'd have had all these toys back when we were? I'm not sure.
No, we were too busy being distracted by the girl sitting in front of us and things like that.
I'm not sure I would. I'm really actually fairly certain I could never get into the University of Texas.
Well, Vincent says, I think kids that use smartphones need to put them away and use paper or pen and pencil and paper. I agree to a point they need to put the phones away, and I'm guilty. I'm on my phone a lot.
Yeah.
But
I don't know about the pencil and paper deal anymore. I know there's a big push for that, and I'm not at odds with the folks that are for it, but that is exactly like when I was in college. If somebody would have told me, y'all need to put that calculator away and get this abacus back out, because the screen is not going away. The computer is not going away. And by the way, it's made me immensely more efficient. So. Yeah.
I mean, but I think there's some therapy.
I agree with Tammy Keeling on that. She goes, have you ever checked your own screen time and phone use? How much is for work? You'd be amazed. It's not. I know it's not. I know that a lot of my screen time is perusing Twitter. I know that it's doing personal emails. I agree 100%, Tammy. She says, I don't disagree with the importance of exercise or personal interaction. No,
Jim Hinojosa says, I teach construction classes. It's a constant struggle to keep kids off their phone.
You ought to be able to walk in and check your phone. I mean, I've walked into the House of Representatives. You check your phone. You leave it in a cubby outside. You don't take it in. So you ought to. And by the way, our school district, I believe, has a zero tolerance policy for cell phone usage in the building. You know, with people are like, well, what if I need to text my mom? Well, what did you do when you were in school? You went down to the office. You better have a dang good reason. You went down to the office and you called her.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you should do when you're in school.
Well, but I mean,
good morning, Matt Beauchesne.
I'm going to flip the coin on this.
Flip it on.
Because how many kids growing up did you know that constantly? I mean, we were told if you go somewhere, you got to call, let us know where you are. So we know where you are. That was it.
Right.
Today, kids because parents want to be their kids' best friends.
Yeah.
It's the parents, not the kids, that drive this behavior, in my opinion. Kids are on their phones a lot, but most kids, a kid, they don't want to check in with their parents. Come on.
Lazy parents is what it is.
You did all you want to do to distance yourself from your parents when you were a kid.
Well, you keep talking like that. Don't worry. Dawn will add you to our Life 360. She knows where I am 24/7. I could be in a public space and walk into a restroom, and Dawn may text me, raise the seat. She knows where I'm at.
Ricky King says, I know at least an hour of my day is watching y'all. Well, we're good.
I mean,
we're good. We're good screen time.
Those of you that know Dawn and me, you know that I do. I love my wife, and I'm a very blessed man. But there was an old bit Chris Rock did about Bill Clinton being unfaithful. And he said about Bill Clinton, he said, men are as faithful as their opportunities. He said, don't keep throwing it in their face and think they're not going to take it. Well, this man has no opportunities. I mean, it's like, don't worry. I pride myself on being faithful. It's not all me. I mean, I think there's a shock. This right here could be like an Israeli sold beeper. Like if I went somewhere, like if I walked through the door at like Maximus, boom, my genitalia gets blown off by my cell phone. It could happen. Now there's an idea. We could spend $20 million upgrading our topless bar and put a venue tax on it.
There we go. Nobody would go.
No, nobody goes now, do they?
No, I don't know.
That's so old school. I haven't either. Kind of proud of that.
Kathleen Leininger says exposure to bad actors and pedophiles these kids are encountering is huge. These kids' brains aren't developed enough to be able to discern the threat. Yeah, I think there's some of that. I mean, but I'd be curious to see the numbers and whether or not the numbers of those sorts of things is actually increasing over time with social media, or is it just perception? I don't know. Yeah. Tammy Keeling says cell phones don't track where your child is. They track where the phone is.
Right.
Just ask any teen.
That's true. Yeah, you give the phone to your buddy and say, here, you stay at school. I'm going to go across to Dairy Treat and have a burger. Our buddy Gil Garcia?
Yep.
Gil is in the beverage business and has for years been over that area that includes the bar we mentioned. And it's interesting. It takes him almost 4 hours twice a week to service that account. It's just, it's really, you've got to go in early, stay, check out the scene. Not really.
Drink a lot of beer.
Not really.
Just kidding.
That's how we give him a hard time. Linda says Rob and I have 360 as well. There you go.
I think most people do.
Yep.
Peter McNally, communication has become too accessible.
Yes, sir. I agree. Well, I mean, imagine Peter McNally, a great give backer, right? He's tutoring a kid. The kid just constantly whipping out his phone. We try to have movie night at least one day a week over at Casa Carter. And I mean, and literally it always ends up with a little bit of tension. It's like, hey, Caden, you want to hang up and hang out? He's 16. You can hear his phone. Zzz, zzz, zzz. I'm like, look, let it go. If you can't let it go for 2 hours, man, you're a slave to that tool.
Well, but the people on the other end, if you don't answer a text right away, they start blowing up your phone. Where are you? Why aren't you answering?
Yeah. Randy Langston, we prompted some PTSD. He says it's a slippery slope. I agree. But if your child lives with your ex and is being homeschooled but isn't, they lie, your kid isn't doing anything, what do you do? I didn't mean to peel back that scab, Randy. My bad.
That's I don't
No, it is bad though. I mean, that's, we like to have fun with Randy, but it's a bad deal.
Yeah. I
But
don't know what you do in that situation, to be honest.
You have to monitor those things.
Apparently he is, but he's getting there's no way to either A, prove it or change the behavior.
Yep. And
Yeah, and I mean,
you need to take a break.
Yeah.
Quick break.
Yeah, let's do that. Paravita Wellness today, folks. Today,
Wednesday.
get in to Paravita today, 5 to 7 career fair, right there at 1405 East Airline, and Erica is hiring for the Vita Cafe.
Yeah, today is the job fair.
5 to 7 a day, all positions. Kitchen staff, wait
Up to
staff,
management.
front counter staff, up to management. She's looking for a manager.
Not a bad gig. You can manage a brand new operation right here on the north side of town, right by the DTAR North.
Yeah, imagine that. Walking into a restaurant that's shiny and
Brand new and clean.
No
It's gonna be a
grease in the
nice
grease
place.
trap?
And there won't be any either, Paravita. The Vita Cafe is going to be great. We've looked at the menu, and it's going to be phenomenal. Get in and get after it. Allen's Record Service, 578-6300. I talked to Janet Miller last night. Said she and Alan have been tremendously busy, but that the old man is doing fine.
Good.
Allen's. Did you know, and I don't know if it's the feeder road in front of like New First Bank or the loop itself is called Allen Miller Drive?
I did not know.
That is a true story. It was on my Wave app. By the way, if you use a map or Google Map app in your vehicle, check out an application called Waze, W-A-Z-E. I find it both extremely accurate and entertaining. It's have you ever seen it?
Yeah.
Waze, and it'll say approaching a railroad crossing, and it'll say
Police up ahead.
Yes, police reported up ahead, and then it asks you at the bottom, still there, not there, and you can hit not
Yeah,
there.
that's safe when you're driving.
It gives you something to do while you're driving when you're, But
Gives you something to do so you can distract yourself, so you have to call Allen's to come get you out of the ditch.
578-6300. Give a special shout out to John Paul Hull, who's actually listening to this about 10:30 this morning. The office is at 205. Beautiful facility, beautiful for you. Come by and see what he and James Geets created together. You would you'd be amazed at how nice this space is.
Today's called on Wednesday.
Absolutely.
Veracruz Restaurant, get in today. I know Bobby Leister will be there. Patrick Strauss might even stop by. There's a few regulars.
Pete Strauss is awesome. Brian
get
Small
their
calling
call,
me out like Waze is so old that I should have known about it. Jennifer Rayburn says Waze will take you 18 turns out of your way to save 3 minutes drive time. But wouldn't you rather drive than sit?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would.
I'm not arguing with Jennifer. That would be futile.
Andrew Alvarez says, I used to have Cookie Monster as my Waze voice.
Nice. I'm going to get my Australian. I have that Australian girl on my Siri. She's my indulgence. Veracruz Restaurant today is called a Wednesday. Get into Veracruz today and have the best Mexican food in town. Did you already say that? I don't actually listen to the program. I am the program. Did you talk about USA Concrete?
No,
Coating?
we have not talked about them.
Tough as nails, polyurethane coat them with crack, stick, peel, or fade, and they can come in and level your driveway and then seal all the cracks before they put down that coating. The nice thing is the temperatures in Texas, you won't have your tires sticking to the surface. It is a fine product. Brian Small asked, have you ever heard of iTunes? No, but did you know I do have a lifetime membership card at Blockbuster, and I'm going to start using that.
Better start
quick.
using that thing. Yeah,
I got it on MySpace.
Yeah, use JAS Solutions.
Wow,
for all your cleaning needs.
Absolutely, they do unbelievable. It's just you've got to experience it to see it. When you come home and you're like, did she refinish all my cabinets? No, she just has a certain oil that she uses.
Commercial, residential, industrial applications, all the cleaning. If we're still in the middle of flu season. If everybody in your house has been sick, call JAS and let them come in and basically disinfect the entire place.
You got H.R. Mallory thinking he's a wise guy here, saying Brian Small, he's still burning mixtapes for Dawn.
Cassettes.
True story. I did get in Judge Zeller's truck one time. We were going to go bird hunting and he's old school, and up on his visor, he had that old elastic thing that you can put on that you can slide CDs into,
Yeah.
And so I just kind of reached over and he's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm just checking out your tunes, dog. His CD player in this particular truck didn't work anymore, but he still had the CDs hanging there.
What else are you going to do with them?
And so I pulled one out and it said, Jamie's Date Mix. Nice.
Should have ever asked if you're still stuck in that CD club contract.
Yeah.
Columbia Records.
I still owe them
10 for one.
I owe them a couple of vinyls. Yeah. And I used to get really upset because you would order stuff and it came in such a cheap off-brand jacket that it wasn't like you were getting a collector album.
No.
I had Songs in the Key of Life was a 2-album set from Stevie Wonder. I had some Olivia Newton-John. I had some Bad Taste in Music. I think that was my first Zamfir album was off of, you got to order 10 at the regular price.
Yeah.
Of $47.99.
Or you got 14 for a penny or something. Remember that one?
It was hard to beat. I mean, I amortized it in my head.
I think every time I joined it, I had to get AC/DC Back in Black.
Yeah.
One of the most sold albums of all time. One of the most stolen albums of all time. Because every time you took it to a party, somebody would lift it.
I really want someday Mapsco. Nice. I really see what Mapsco should have done was pioneered like Google Maps. They thought they were in the map business. They were really in the routing business.
Yeah.
What I really want to get.
And eventually people stopped going into the dealer to upgrade their maps.
But I also used to have literally in Dallas, I had a book and like I would look up Ash Wade Street and it would say 34C and you would turn to page 34 and find it. And there it is. And then it would refer you back to the big map so you could find it.
Yeah. Or the page before so you could, Map reading was an art. If you didn't know how to read a map, you were, think about it now. I was coming back from Florida and all this guy does is airport runs. And the airport's about an hour away in Fort Myers from where I was. All this guy does is airport runs, and I think there's a reason they have to do this. They have to stay on their Uber or Lyft app or whatever. But you'd think this guy would know how to get there. He was constantly checking, not on the straightaway on the interstate, but the turns to get there. Dude, how many times you been doing this?
So you don't learn anything because you become so reliant upon the device.
Taxi drivers used to have to pass an exam in cities. They would tell you, if I'm going from here to here, how do I get there? And you would have to tell them.
I've heard that once you spend time in New York, you just know, right? Oh, it's up there and over to the left, right? Because it's all numbers and...
Yeah,
right?
I'm not so sure about
There's
that.
Pat Matula checking in. Good morning, brother. We'll be talking more about
Sanders Matula, isn't it?
But that's Pat.
I think so.
I think it is. Am I wrong? Click on that picture, see what he looks like.
It's going to show him right there.
That's Pat Matula, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks like him. Maybe he's got a twin brother.
Hey, I was country.
Or else we think phones are distractive. Remember driving and looking at a paper map?
Oh,
but you know what? People used to pull over and look at paper maps. I used to basically memorize the map directions to get somewhere. But that was just me. I was
Jordan Bale says, We think phones are distractive. Remember driving, looking at a paper map? I can be the guy. It was like all over the cab of my truck. It was all over the cab of my truck. Did you read it?
Just now. That's what we talked about.
I've got some.
Thanks for paying attention.
I've got some ADD. Squirrel.
Yeah. You just picked up your phone, bud.
What did Peter McNally says? Think about it. 50 to 70 years ago, did you know where and what your loved ones were doing 24/7? Jackie Kennedy didn't. Don't think we were any smarter or safer. I agree. We've all bought into this new culture. Are we better off?
No, I don't think we are. I think we've raised a thank you. Now I know.
Andrew Patrick.
You're better than me. You're smarter than me. You figure these things out.
No, I'm just lucky.
But no, Peter, I don't think we are. I think we've become very mistrusting of people.
Dun, 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 dun.
I think it's led to a lot of, I don't know what the word is, suspicious of activities that aren't suspicious. Anyway.
Fake suspicion?
Yeah, more or less.
I could see that. Anxiety. Leads to anxiety.
And controlling behaviors. I mean, now you just have to pick up your phone or put an Apple tag on them. If you wanted to stalk somebody back in the day, you had to actually drive around and find them.
H.R. Mallory comes up with one of the great differences between men and women. He says, we can't give cardinal directions anymore. I don't know where north is. Do I turn left or right at Starbucks? Women give directions by landmarks.
I don't think that's ever changed.
And men give directions by, you go north for about 3 blocks, take a left. What's on that corner? I don't know. It's X Street. That's how you go.
When I had to tell people where we lived because it was kind of confusing to get to it, it was all landmarks.
But I'll be telling somebody, hey, especially anybody younger than me.
Take Crowchild Trail to the Crowchild Inn, turn left at the Crowchild Inn, and there's a little short
right
street.
There, they'll cut you off and go, I'll just put it in my phone. Give me the address.
Nowadays,
I'll put it in my phone.
Back then, there were no phones. We were even hard to find on maps sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see.
Look at
Dollar Floor Store.
Stuff.
We forgot them. Dollar Floor Store. Get in.
We didn't forget them. We saved them.
We saved them for last. Dollar Floor Store today. Go see Tamara and the gang over there. 39-cent tile, 99-cent carpet. Anything you need for your flooring projects, they've got it. They're not a big box store. They're Texas-owned business, established in Bryan, expanding to Victoria. Go support them. Great flooring, great prices, great people.
Ladies, in this era, I suggest you go tile instead of carpet. I mean, if you know,
Hardwood,
you know. Yeah.
So what do you make of this? Benjamin Netanyahu comes to the White House, spends
Jewish
the night.
guy, right? Trump hates him. He's a Jew.
Yeah,
Trump hates him.
I'm surprised he was there.
Anti-Semitic.
How'd he even get in if Trump hates him?
Hates him. I know why, because he thinks there's a business opportunity.
And I thought the Abraham Accords were great. I'm not sure Trump just didn't set Middle East peace back.
Forever.
At least a decade by.
But coming spring of 27, Trump Gaza.
Yeah.
With the infinity pool.
Although I think what he was trying to say was, and tell the world that Hamas, because he said Hamas needs to go. And I don't disagree.
They do need to go.
But think about it. The people in the Gaza have been so consumed with their hatred for Israelis and Jews that they have neglected.
What an asset.
The asset they are on. And you and I have talked about this. This is right on the Mediterranean. This could have been the French Riviera of the Middle East.
Casinos. Well, but here's the deal. In all fairness,
Jobs for people instead of.
in general, Muslims don't have fun. You know,
Men do.
well, true story.
I mean, look at Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. They're huge tourist destinations.
Yeah, I mean, Dubai. But Trump basically saying, look, if we've got to protect it and we've got to be here, then why don't you just move all these Arabs out of here and we'll just go ahead and develop it, make it a destination, endless number of jobs. Everybody will be happy. I'm not sure. I think he's more making a point than making a plea, but you have to look at it and say, instead of the Gaza Strip, you could call it the MAGA Strip. And all of a sudden it makes sense. There is some logic. There are people who believe strongly that the Palestinians have been displaced, that Israel sits on stolen land, and yada, yada, yada. And it's exactly what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks about
stolen
this.
land that the United Nations all agreed. Everybody agreed this is the land we're going to give the Israelis after World War II.
It is right in line with Raza Raza, the idea that Texas sits on stolen land and that we're going to occupy it. No, it's the same thing. Yeah. It's the same thing without the violence. And by the way, the Raza folks have been smart. There shouldn't be any violence. We don't need violence. We can disagree without having violence. We can disagree without having to eradicate them as well, because Texas isn't going anywhere. It's not going to become Mexico again.
Well, people want to revise history and ascribe today's values and how we do things to how things were done 100, 200, 300 years ago before.
And it's funny because today's values in some ways are so much more highbrow, and in some ways are so much more decadent and worthless and terrible. It's a moment in time. It's just a moment in time.
I mean, the values have changed because no longer are people just trying to eke out a living to survive, right?
Absolutely.
In the Western world, it's all about what do you have and what have you done for me lately?
This has got to be Trump's fault. Tell us about it.
Yeah, big mass shooting in Sweden yesterday at an adult education center. 10 people killed.
I thought they never had, honestly, never had that problem.
This is the worst mass shooting in the country, according to some. The attacker was shot and killed.
Good.
He did act alone. They don't know why he did what he did.
It always says a motive remains unclear as of this writing. Why do we try to ascribe rational thought to irrational actions? Why do we try to go, oh, well, he had a perfectly good reason for killing 10 people?
I don't think it's that. I think they try to do it so they can maybe try and figure out why they happened to stop them from happening. But we've been trying to figure out why they've been happening for decades, and we've never stopped them. Even if we ever find out the reason, it never stops them.
Right.
And apparently strong gun control laws don't stop them either. Hard to own a gun in Sweden.
I think because I have absolutely no problem. Go ahead.
Listen to the fear mongering in this a little bit. And this is 1440, who's usually pretty good.
Yeah, pretty benign.
Pretty benign. The institute, located in the vicinity of other schools for children.
Yeah. Could have happened at a kid's school. Think about that.
It couldn't have, because this guy apparently went there to seek out this school for some reason. But all of a sudden you've got to throw the children in because it makes it a worse crime if children were in the vicinity.
Right.
And they were forced to shelter in place.
But I think because I'm so willing, like if that guy wasn't dead, put me on the plane, I'll go over there and bust a cap on him because he deserves to die.
Interesting that Sweden would have shelter in place procedures in a country that doesn't have many.
They've never had this problem. But I have to tell you that there's always a price to be paid for the freedoms that you require. And while I wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable on an individual basis, looking at a parent from Uvalde, for example, I would not feel comfortable just saying this to an individual. In the big picture, the unfortunate incidents that involve kids, people, and innocent bystanders involving guns are worth it to protect our Second Amendment freedoms and our ability to protect ourselves. That doesn't always resonate because it doesn't seem fair, but quite often life isn't fair. I mean, I'll tell you this. I pray for safety for my family. I'm prepared to defend my family. But if, God forbid, something happened to one of my family members at the hands of a lunatic, you're not going to hear me on here saying, it's the guns, people, it's the guns. It ain't the guns. It's
it might be the gun that you take to kill that person.
Right. It's the crazy people. It ain't the guns. And we've quit labeling anybody crazy. I mean, Rachel Levine is a dude in a skirt, and we got upset because RFK Jr. wanted to walk in there in a $15,000 suit. Rachel Levine is his competition.
30 years ago, when you were taking abnormal psychology, that was labeled delusional.
And that guy was a psychologist by trade. He doesn't describe himself as mentally ill. I'm perfectly fine. These are Jimmy Choo's. That guy's a nut. And on top of that,
that's
he's
who's driving
an ugly woman.
That's who's driving it, Jimmy Choo and the shoe industry.
Right.
They wanted to expand their sales. Women don't have size 13 double E's. Grammy Awards drew in 15.4 million viewers on Sunday. That was a 9% drop from last year.
And last year was a drop from the year before.
Yeah, they've been falling. This just in, this wasn't on the broadcast, but George Strait was named Best Hip Hop Artist.
Right. He's got a new album. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No doubt.
The people don't care. When all you're talking about is Kanye West's girlfriend and what she wore on the red carpet,
Or didn't wear
on the red carpet. Well, let me rephrase that. She wore something. It's just you could see everything.
But you know,
that alone wasn't enough to stop the drop in viewers.
I don't mean to be.
That was planned. I don't care.
Oh, of course it was. Of course it was. There are awards for so many categories, and I get it, but it's hard to get around the idea. It's hard to get around the idea that the Grammys have really just become the Black Music Awards, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's so many of our urban type artists, so many artists, period, are Black Americans. That's not a put down. It's you just don't find white people on the show. I mean, it's a Black people show. Okay, good for them. It's their night. You know, Brian Small says he just won the Wade and Carter bingo. You've got to have you've got to have, like he said, Rachel Levine in a skirt was the last one he needed. Brian,
what's the equivalent of our free space?
Right. Read it back to us, Brian, your selections, and I'll let you know if that's a good, it's a good bingo. We'll let you know.
Ricky King says, remember Klinger and Mash was trying to get out on a Section 8 by dressing like a woman all the time?
Right. And Rachel Levine does it every day at work and still wore disgraced a military uniform.
And never got Section 8.
Nobody, here's what I can't understand, including you ladies listening. Why aren't the women, the strong, educated, intelligent, professional women in this country just pissed off that men masquerade as you?
They are. Riley Gaines.
But then they label her an extremist.
Yeah.
I don't understand why the women, aside from Riley Gaines, aren't demanding. They will march on Washington. Donald Trump's name it, rapist, misogynist, xenophobe. You just name it. It's all made up garbage, but that's what he is. But yet you can put a dude in a swimsuit and let him swim for Penn, and women go, that's just a tragedy. That's a tragedy. Where's the outrage? Where's the Million Mom March? People forget, they take for granted the hard work Donna Lopiano and the group did to actually, Darryl Royal went and visited with the president and said, women's sports will break our programs. Football can only pay for so much. You can't have women have equal sports opportunities. That's my coach. And you know what? He's still deemed iconic. That guy was a bigot.
At least a misogynist.
Because he equated opportunity to finances. And yet now women just sit around and go, okay, well, it is what it is.
And had the NCAA just done the right thing and NCAA schools just done the right thing and let women play sports, there would have been no need for Title IX.
You know what? NAIA, 2 years ago, we had the head of the NAIA on our program. Ash was there. We did a live broadcast. Said, no, we're putting our foot down. We're not tolerating that.
That might have been last year, actually.
But as a result, NAIA doesn't have these problems. They have women's sports. They have men's sports. Truth is, I would go play women's softball, but they're just too close, and I could not hit that. Brian Small's bingo says he got the term unbelievable, the spelling of ways, a dude in a skirt, looking to Ash to see if he laughs at one of your jokes, and the word Donnie. That's a good bingo.
That is a good bingo.
That's a good bingo. You know what you get when you come here? A throat punch. That's what you're getting.
Kathleen Leininger says we are outraged to speak out, but the mainstream media marginalizes and ignores our voices as non-existent.
Amen. 100%
to that.
Kathleen, no doubt about it. Amen. Tammy Keeling questions the live broadcast from the NAIA conference. Yes, that was it. We had that. Ash was there. And we had
a live interview.
We had a live interview with, what is that gentleman's name?
Jim Carr, the CEO of the NAI.
And he was wonderful. And you know what? 2 days after that interview, he was on CNN. That, I'm telling you, that was a scoop. I mean, I'm just glad we could help get the word out. He was on the Fox. He was on all of them following that landmark.
I'm not sure what Tammy is trying to ask here, but it was it was during what would have been my breakfast time before we went into a session.
Yeah, it was
so
early.
It was on my time.
Yeah, he was there.
I think that's what she's trying to get at.
No, I think she was questioning if we actually pulled that off, and we did actually pull that off.
Yeah, I was there because I was at the convention.
And then afterwards, you untied him and took the handcuffs off and let him go do his thing.
Yeah, and put the gag back on so he couldn't talk to anybody else for 2 days.
Sure.
Yeah.
Linda Chris says they are standing up. That is why women voted for Trump. One of his first orders was there are now only 2 genders in America. Is it, if our founding fathers woke up tomorrow, would they go, wait, what are you talking about? There's a man in a skirt? What? They didn't even have that in their, well, I guess they did in their theaters in Europe. But really? Oh, and they want special rights? I think they need a lot.
Wilson Hansen says, Brent's very entertaining the way he gets worked up about topics, but I often wonder what his blood pressure is.
My blood pressure is medicated.
That's why. If it wasn't, I'd be doing this show solo every day.
Can you imagine?
Or at least most of it.
I just have the big jammer and just fall out. You don't think she's like hoping for that, do you?
Not every day.
And now let's all find our inner chi and move forward with our day on a Caldo Wednesday. We love you, folks.
That'll relax you. A big steaming bowl of Caldo for lunch or dinner.
There you go. Nothing like a big steamer. Y'all be good, folks.
Bye, folks.
120 through town. I've been shot at and cut with a knife, messing around.